welcome back. This is Pankaj here. This is September, and your examination is approaching in the month of March, which means we have ample amount of time to prepare ourselves. By now, you should be done with your textbook. You should be done with all your chapters. That's at least the basics of getting to understand the concepts of it. Okay, and now is the time when you start revising, because your preparatories are going to start in a couple of months, and you need to be ready for preparatory. That's where you can test yourself and see how you are performing and make adjustments to your learning patterns so that you can excel in your final examination in the month of March, April. So many students, in 12th CBSE, they face this dilemma. They have, NCRT, and they have this R. Agarwal, and they have R.D. Sharma, they have Pradeep's, and they have so many other textbooks to refer to. When they go to school, most of the schools follow only NCRT. Some schools would, some teachers would try to go ahead and include some other textbooks questions. And if you go to the tuition centers, wherever you have enrolled into, they would do a set of questions which will be completely, separate, a different set of questions, which might be from a different textbook altogether. And they might have their own materials. And also you will have a tuition notebook. If I'm correct, you should be having a tuition notebook, and you should be having a class notebook, but most of our students don't maintain that. Well, I'm aware of that. So what happens to a student when he thinks that, okay, now is the time that I'm going to sit and study? What happens to him? When he thinks about that and he starts to sit and study, he is clueless. One, because he or she does not know which textbook to refer to and where should he or she do the questions from. Or is it, well, of course, NCRT is not enough. We have to go outside of NCRT to gain, master the chapters. So now, should he limit himself to a particular textbook, or go to a textbook which is a bit more difficult, or which is the best textbook that I can do everything from? Well, that's where he gets confused. And if, for example, if I pick up differentiation and I start doing questions from NCRT, R. Agarwal, and R.D. Sharma, let me tell you that you would find it really hard to finish all of the questions. And even if you do, let's say you put in all your hard work and effort to finish all the questions from all of these textbooks, you would be wasting a lot of time. You do not have that much of time, not even from the beginning of the year, because there's too many questions and too many difficult questions and concepts that you need to learn. So instead, what could be the best way to approach the examination? Or what could be the best thing to do? If I had a student in 12th standard, in fact, I do have students from 12th standard, what I do is to give them a worksheet of myself, which is again, what other tuition centers do. But in my worksheet, I ask them to just do these questions from differentiation. There are different types of questions or concepts under differentiation, like implicit functions, explicit functions. And then we have the logarithmic differentiation, infinite differentiation, inverse trigonometric substitution. Now, I have like a couple of questions, like 20 questions from each topic. And if a student practices that, he or she should be, good enough to do any question based on that, or be, capable of applying his knowledge in solving any new question that he comes across. So that's what I have done. But what I can suggest you is, for example, let's say you are wanting to practice a particular topic or a particular chapter. Do not blindly start off practicing it. Okay? First, find out what are the different types of concept involved in that particular chapter. Let me show you a document here. I made 2 documents for you. I'm going to show both the documents, and it should be available for download. I'll try and put it on YouTube channel itself so that you can download it from there. So if you can see here, I have relations, and I have mentioned what are the different things involved under relations. We have types of relation, how to prove a particular relation to be reflexive, symmetric, and transitive. Now these are things that you need to note. Okay, then you have functions, or how do you prove invertibility? Then what are the questions that you need to practice? right? Composition of function, inverse trigonometry. Now, if you this could make sense to you. Like say, for example, inverse trigonometry. You need to jot down what are the different things that is involved under inverse trigonometry. You have to memorize the range and the domain of all the inverse trigonometric functions, like the theory part of it. Why is it inverse? Why is it, having this particular range and the domain? Why is it so? How do we find the principal value? And there are certain questions based on proving the LHS to be the RHS, like tan inverse of something plus tan inverse of another thing is sine inverse of something else, And then you have certain proving questions where you have to make substitution and then prove the LHS to be the RHS. So along with that, you have solving questions. Like there will be certain questions where you have to solve for certain things, right? Where x would be involved, like tan inverse of x plus cot inverse of 1 over x could be equal to some pi. How do you find the value for x? So these things you need to make a note of, all right? And then let's say you get into matrices, what are the different concepts, yeah? So if you can see here, even for differentiation, I've mentioned all the different concepts involved under differentiation. This is the first thing that you need to do. First, make a note of all the different concepts. If you can see here, even when we're talking about application of derivatives, it's not an easy topic, let me tell you that. Application of derivatives has a lot of concepts involved in it. First of all, it has a rate measure, and then under increasing and decreasing functions itself, we have two different types. One is involved with algebraic functions. You need to know how to deal with that. Trigonometric functions, how do I deal with that? How do I solve trigonometric equations? How do I convert two different equations into one, or two different trigonometric ratios, a sum of it into one trigonometric ratio, and then find a solution? Tangents and normals, easy. Approximation, easy. But then when we come to algebraic functions of maxima and minima, we have different things to do. How to solve a quadratic equation, synthetic division method, completing the square. When do you apply these things? Those are the things that you need to identify, right? Then local maxima, local minima, absolute minimum. Make a note of these things. That's the first thing I would advise you to do. Once you've written down all of these in a shade of paper, start working on it. Let's say, for example, let's randomly pick up a particular topic. Okay, determinants. Under determinants, I need to know all the 6 properties. Along with knowing the 6 properties, am I practicing all the different kinds of questions from NCERT? NCERT is a base, you have to do that. And after that, am I done with some questions from R.S. Agarwal and R.D. Sharma? And have I practiced all the old question papers with respect to determinants only? And then again, we have area of a triangle. How do you find the area of a triangle? Is there a tough task, or what are the different scenarios that you need to inculcate in that? Now, these are the things that you need to make a note as a pointer. How do you find the inverse of a matrix? Solving a system of equations. Let me show you probability, and let me show you straight lines and planes. You see, these are the different concepts that are available under straight lines and planes. And if I'm correct, there are like 17 concepts. By just looking at this, let's say, for example, I'm talking about shortest distance between two skew lines. You need to know how to do it without even writing it. You need to know how to do it before you can, approach the question. That's the level at which you need to be. The preparation has to be that good. Make a note of these first, okay? This is available for download, but then too, if you want to go ahead and write it by yourself, very, very good. You can certainly go ahead and do that. Okay. So what after this? So start preparing yourself on these lines. Don't blindly start preparing, pick up that book, pick up this book. Okay, do I know how to do this? Do I know? No. Stop, stop and make a note of these things, and make sure that you're okay with this concept of velocity and acceleration under rate measure. Do you know how to find the velocity? Do you know how to go to the, distance if velocity is given to you? How do you find the acceleration? So make a note of these, try to solve your questions and make it a separate booklet. Try doing that. Maintain a book by yourself or for yourself. And once you're done with that, go ahead and start preparing. Now, also when you're preparing for your examination, don't blindly prepare from chapter 1 to chapter 10. Yes, for the first time, yes, okay, you can go ahead and do that. But generally what happens is when you approach your examination, all right, let's say you're writing a question paper on preparatory question paper, which has, all the chapters involved. You're not going to have questions from one chapter only. You're going to have questions from multiple chapters. Now, when you have questions from multiple chapters, what basically happens is your mind is not been designed to read questions from multiple chapters. You might get confused or you might panic because your mind is not ready for that. So now we aim at training our mind. Okay? We need to train our mind to read multiple chapters and to expect questions from different chapters. Let's say, for example, I'm doing, differentiation and I'm doing word problems, not maxima, minima, all the volumes and the cone question. Is your mind capable of jumping into inverse trigonometry suddenly? So I'm talking about, maxima, minima, and then I'm asking you to jump into inverse trig. Is your mind capable to do that in a very short span of time? Okay, let me pick up another example. Let's say you're doing Bayes' theorem. As soon as you're done with Bayes' theorem, is your mind capable of talking about continuity? Is it capable of talking about continuity and differentiability? You see, this is where, right now, even the thought of it is giving you, a lot of confusion. You're not able to do that. If you're able to do that, I appreciate you have been on the right track and very good, very, very good. But most of the students find it difficult to make the switch. That's when they see these different questions, different from chapters to chapters, that's where they are scared. That's a confusion they get into. So how do we deal with that particular confusion? First, do your normal preparation. Make sure that you know everything. Now, once you're done with this, I advise my students to do something like this. Okay. Now, this is just an example of what I do. This is not exactly what I do. This is just an example. What I do is this. I make these groups, all right? And also, this is I find out what is the timing that he has. Let's say, for example, he's writing his examination in the month of November, and we have like September, October. So identify first, what are the times that you're dedicating for mathematics? How much hours in a day are you dedicating? Write those down. Okay? Write those down. It's all right. You just sit down and write down, okay, let's say for tomorrow, I'm going to sit down and make sure that I dedicate like 2 hours and so on and so forth. Write that down. So once you're done with that, start allotting number of hours for relations, number of hours for determinants, number of hours for differential equations as per your knowledge. Okay, this is the number of hours you might be taking. Let's say, for example, let me show you something. Okay, let's say, for example, you had like 16th and 17th and 18th and so on and so forth. And on 16th, you are able to dedicate like 2 hours, and on 17th, like 3 hours, and then on 18th, you are able to dedicate 1 hour. It is just an example, all right? Now, this you need to do for like 1 month. So altogether, we have like 6 hours here. Now you're, dedicating the chapter hours. So you're saying, say, for example, as per my calculations, you should not take more than, let's say, 3 hours for determinants, and your entire determinants, all the properties and different types of questions from determinants, everything should be over by 3 hours. Now you can allot these 3 hours either completely on 17th or 2 hours on 17th, and also there you need to mention what are the topics that you're going to be preparing on the 16th. Let's say for determinants, you're going to be doing only the properties, and then a few of the questions which could be related to your area that you could practice on the 1 hour, or whatever the remaining questions are in determinants that could be practiced in the remaining 1 hour. In fact, 3 hours is too much for determinants. So this you need to do for the entire chapter. Identify how many hours do you need for these chapters. How many hours for relations, determinants, differential equations, all these you need to identify how many hours you need. Now, once you identify the hours, find out how much time do you have and try to segregate it. So now that you have the number of hours required, so overall you would probably have, let me just move this up. Okay, let's say you have a potential time. Now there's a reason why I say it's a potential time, because if you do not use it, it's a waste. Let's say the potential number of hours that you have is 50 hours. Okay, and the timing that you require for reading or practicing all of these chapters could be around 60 hours. Could be 60 hours or less than that also. I'm not sure. I'm just, that's a hypothetical situation where I'm, trying to give an example. Now try to fit in these 60 hours into the table which I showed. So against this, so let's say for example, you have for relations, the potential time that you have is, or some 50 hours, and then in that you're going to be dedicating some 2 hours for relations. Now fit in this 2 hours in some days. Likewise, identify how much time do you need for determinants all by yourself. Okay, let's say again 2 hours. Again, differential equations, let's say again 2 hours. So you need to make sure that you finish all of these chapters in 2 hours and keep moving on. Now, once you have identified this and you have placed, like, on the 16th, I'm going to be doing this chapter, on the 17th, I'm going to be doing this chapter, don't go in the order the textbook says, like the first chapter, relations and functions, matrices, inverse trigonometry, and so on and so forth. Club the chapters. Now, this is where I was talking about, students getting confused when they see questions from different topics altogether, right? That's what we're dealing with that now. How do we deal with it? We club topics which are not related at all. That's the grouping here that I've done. So I've clubbed relations, determinants, and differential equations. Yeah. So relations, determinants, and differential equations, completely different concepts altogether. So you sit and work on these three. That will be your first group. And then you have the second group, third group, and so on and so forth. And also when you're grouping this, let's say today you have dedicated like 2 hours for mathematics. In that 2 hours, do 1 hour of relation and 1 hour of differential equations. You're getting me? Though you can dedicate the complete 2 hours for relation, do not do that. Dedicate 1 hour for relation and 1 hour for differential equations. Now, when you do that, your mind is now capable of reading different chapters. You're getting me? So you have to be thorough. You have to dedicate that complete 1 hour for relations and functions and do as many questions as possible, and then shift to differential equations. And the next day come back and repeat the same thing. Relations and differential equations, or differential equations and determinants, however you feel like. Once you're done with group 1, shift to group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5, and so on and so forth. You're getting me? Now, this is your preparation, and once you're done with this, repeat it. Repeat it with a different grouping. This time when you're going to group, probably you can group LPP, relations, and probability. You're getting me? So group different topics together and then come up with your own preparation pattern. Once you're done with that, you will be sure, I'm sure that you will be able to do the examination much more properly, and you will not get confused or stressed when you actually look at the question paper. Most of the students get stressed because of this reason, because they see multiple chapters once and for all staring at their faces, and they're like, oh my god, what do I do now? No, don't. Relax. It's all right. Now that you've trained your mind to read multiple chapters, it's going to be easy for you. I will be putting up these documents on the internet, so you can probably go ahead and download it from my channel itself. And if you need any help on that, let me know in the comment section. I'll try to do something about it. Okay, because whatever these timings that I put up, that let's say for example determinants is like 3 hours, I put it up depending on the student. I know how the student will respond and how the student will be able to do the questions. So depending on his speed and in his understanding capability, I would either assign 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours. So you need to take that call and allot these timings for yourself. Okay. And along with that, the change in pattern. Well, that's a change in pattern that I've downloaded from a particular website. So nothing much has changed except that you have these 2 markers, right? And let me show you something else also. Okay, I think I have it here. Okay. Yes. So that's the pattern that I was trying to show you. All right. So you have value-based questions for 4 marks, and that's a change, because last year I remember it having only 1 mark, and then we have number of questions 8 for 2 markers. That's another change. That's a major change actually. So let's go back and look at something else now. Okay, so that's the old format, and I have the new format here, again picked up from a particular website. So what I also suggest is this. Say you have 29 questions, right? Okay, so you have 3 hours, which is 180 minutes, and you have 100 questions, right? So 180 divided by 100. Well, that we already know, it's 1.8. What does that tell me? That every mark, 1 mark is 1.8 minutes. Okay, 1.8 minutes would be how much? 1 minute and 50 seconds approximately, which is almost 2 minutes. Now what we're going to do is to reduce this to 1 minute and 30 seconds. The first section is 4 marks altogether, so that's 4 into 1.5, and that's going to be 6 minutes. So you should be finished with section A in 6 minutes. Take your timer, start the timer, wait for 6 minutes, take a deep breath, finish each and every question in 1.5 minutes and move on. If you have not finished that in 6 minutes, go to the next section. Not a problem. Go to the next section. Now, the second section has 8 questions of 12 marks each, which is 16 into 1.5. 24 minutes. You see, you get 24 minutes to finish section B, and it's completely doable. It's not that great. If you're timing yourself and not wasting your time on daydreaming, you can certainly do this. Okay, let me show you something more also. Now let's go to 11 questions and 4 marks. That's 44 marks into 1.5. How much is that? 66 minutes. How much is the sum of it now? 66, 70, 80, 90, 96 minutes. 96 minutes is like 1.5 hours, isn't it? 1.5 hours. In the first 1.5 hours, you're done with almost 75% of the paper, which is section A, section B, and section C. And then you have the 6 markers. 6 is 36. 36 into 1.5 is how much? $54. And then you have another 1 hour to finish section C. Guys, do you really think that you won't be able to do 6 questions, which is a 6 marker, under 1 hour? I mean, take 15 minutes per question. If you take 15 minutes per question, then you should be done with that in 1.5 hours. But 15 minutes is too high, right? Even now you can cut it down to, like, say 10 minutes, 6 questions, you're there, isn't it? So if you can follow this, what happens now? How much time are you saving? So you have 24 plus 30, 66 plus 30 is 96. 96 plus 54 is how much? 150. 96 plus 54 is 150. 150, and then you have an extra spare of 30 minutes, right? 150 minutes is 2.5 hours. 2 hours and 30 minutes. You're done with your question paper, and you have a spare of 30 minutes. You see, this is why I keep telling you that if you do not get any question here, skip it. First 15 minutes when you get to read the question paper, identify what are the questions which you can do right away, what are the questions which you have to think and do it. Keep those questions to the last. You have extra, 30 minutes in that you can come back and check your answers, and all those stuff can be done. And this is completely doable. When you're practicing question papers, try to do this, and see if you can achieve it. If you're able to achieve this, you're ready. Okay? And one more useful tip that I wanted to give you is here. You see, the topic, which is linear programming problem, is the most easiest topic that you can get. It's not that difficult. Transportation, allocation, and manufacturing. But let me also warn you that this is a topic where you will be wasting a lot of time. So now on, whenever you practice a linear programming problem question, try to close that under 8 minutes. And it's completely doable. All your graph, your calculations, maxima, minima, everything, you should aim at finishing it in under 8 minutes. So it is a 6-marker question, right? So 6 into 1.5 is how much? 9 minutes. See, that itself is coming under 9 minutes. But now our aim is to close under 8 minutes. And it's doable because there's nothing. It's a mechanical work. You practice and practice and practice, aim for it, keep your timer up, turn the timer on, see if you're finishing it in 8 minutes. And if you're not, go back and check where you're losing the timing or where you're wasting time. Identify that and close it. So I hope you all practice what I have told here. If you feel that it will help you, give it a try. See if it helps you. If it does not, if you feel that this method is a bit difficult to follow, you can again mention that on the comment section. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe and share this video with your friends, and let me know if it helps. Thank you again. Goodbye.